Hey guys, what's up? Today we're going to be checking out America's secret weapon that won World War II, the VT Fuze. A subscriber, he asked me for me to react to this, but now, forewarning, I have watched a video from Fat Electrician and Habitual Line Crosser where they went to a museum. Like, I want to say it was uploaded in the last month, maybe last 2-3 weeks. Anyhow, they went to a museum and there was a VT Fuze there, and I seen a little bit on that. Now, I haven't watched this video, but let's go ahead and hop into it and see what we got here. Please, guys, I know I'm at 46 subscribers right now. I said at the beginning of all this, I was aiming to get 50. Then I'll work my way towards 100, 500, and then I'm just making it to 1,000. Trying to figure out how to do some editing better, and because I don't edit any of my videos. What you see at the beginning is what you get at the end. That's just what I do. I just post what I do. No cuts, no clips, no nothing. Anyhow, guys, please let me know what you would like for me to react to, and I will hop on it as soon as I can. Sorry, I got tongue twisted. Anyhow, let's get into it, guys.
10 years later that it was because America figured out how to turn Christmas lights into a super weapon to win World War II? Yeah, me neither, but we're going to get into it anyway.
Only reason I know anything about that is because of that video I mentioned where GE Electric stopped making Christmas lights in order to make what the bulb that goes inside of this.
Anyways. Today we're talking about the single most impactful weapon of World War II that gave the Allied forces an unprecedented advantage over their enemies. And before you say it, no, it is not nuclear bombs, okay? By the time nuclear bombs were dropped on Japan, it was not a question of who was going to win the war, it was a question of how was America going to end it, and America chose to close it out with a bang. If you're not
I was about to say, it wasn't even the nuke, it wasn't the nuke that necessarily did it. It shut it down quicker, but it's something about the way the Americans are, because I've heard other people say it. Americans are built different than the Europeans and whatnot. We just are. That's why part of my ancestors, yes, they're Cherokee Indian. Now, the other part, somewhere in Europe. I don't know exactly where, but our ancestors, they left for a reason. They didn't want to be under that situation. That honestly, they're back in right now in the United Kingdom, Germany, France, all of them. They're being invaded. And like Germany, oh my God, Germany, you went from one far extreme right, which was a dictatorship, which is technically what they're back under now. They just want to classify it as something else. But that's beside the fact. The fact of the matter is, all of Europe, I'm sorry, it's a shithole. I don't want to go there. Growing up, I wanted to visit Europe. Now, I could care less. I don't want to leave the U.S. at all, actually.
Not picking up what I'm putting down. I'm trying to tell you that the weapon that we're talking about today is the weapon that got us to the grand finale, not the grand finale itself. And that weapon is the VT Fuze, aka the proximity fuse. And we're going to get into it right after a word from our sponsor.
Yeah, kind of a headache.
Have you drank water?
Yeah.
Try one of these.
What is it?
It's called Element. It's going to be even better than water.
I'm sorry, but it looks like it. Well, maybe it's a green bottle. But if it's green on the inside, the stuff, that just looks yuck to me.
Bad.
Yeah, just try not to get lipstick on my water bottle.
Can't tell.
Nah, lipstick on something.
I gotta go. This video is brought to you by Element. Okay, look, I'm gonna keep this simple. It's basically a
mean it's not delete me? What?
Rehydration drink, but unlike all the shit you can buy over at the gas station, it actually has more electrolytes, they're in the right ratios, and it's not full of food dyes and sugar. Okay, watch, I'm gonna read the entire ingredient list because I actually know all of these words, which right off the bat's a good sign. Okay, here we go. Sparkling water, salt, citric acid, magnesium, potassium, natural grapefruit flavor, and stevia leaf. That's fucking it. And then somehow they actually managed to make this shit taste good, okay? They've got all your normal flavors like watermelon, fruit punch, but then they also have
stevia leaf. Is that the stuff they got in sugars? The artificial sugar stuff?
mango chili, which is actually spicy. Then they've got chocolate, and then when you mix that with warm water, it tastes like hot chocolate. And then if you're a psychopath, or if you're just ultra health minded and you don't want artificial flavorings, you can get the raw unflavored version that's literally just salt, potassium, and magnesium. Personally, I like that one because it tastes like commie tears. Okay, and I know what you're thinking, why on earth is some sports drink that's formulated for elite level athletes sponsoring a dude called the Fat Electrician? I've got news for you. Middle-aged fat dudes sweat too, okay?
Yep, sure do.
Hey, look at me.
Thing is, now that I'm about to be 45, I would say he's not middle-aged yet. I say he's a young buck. I think he's in his 30s, like lower 30s, if that. I don't know how old he is, to be honest. But all I do know is he's young. I wish I could go back.
I sweat in a cold shower. Why do you think I'm wearing tank tops all the time? Okay, so when I go to jujitsu 5 times a week to pretend like I'm Joe Rogan or Jocko Willink for an hour or two, I get super sweaty, then I get muscle cramps, and this shit helps. And then on top of that, I have a horrible habit of getting aggressively drunk with my friends and being hungover the next day, and this helps with that too. Okay, so if you want to give it a try, they've got it in cans, they've got it in little drink pouches. If you use my link down below, you're gonna get a free sample pack, and there's a money-back guarantee. If you don't like it, they'll refund the entire thing. So if you want to give it a try, head over to drinklmnt.com/thefatelectrician. Let's get back to the video. All right, our story begins in 1939, and at this point in time, there's approximately 2 different types of fuses for artillery and anti-aircraft rounds, okay? First, we have the direct hit fuse, which essentially is exactly what it sounds like. The round hits something solid, it then blows up. This is typically what's used in artillery. And then we had a variable timed fuse that was more commonly used in anti-aircraft rounds. Basically, if you saw planes coming in, you would try to guess how far away they were, and then you would time how long it would take the projectile to get there, and there was a knob on the round where you could set it to detonate at like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds. You would do some quick math and then try to shoot it at the plane, and then after it left the barrel, 7 seconds.
You know how quick that math has to be? Because if it takes you 4 seconds to do the math, you just lost 4 of the 7 seconds you had. Yeah, that's crazy.
Later, it would explode in midair, whether it was near the plane or not. And then, as I'm sure you can imagine, trying to guesstimate the range on a plane and then
I'd have just had them set in order, like I'd have had them in various orders where it's long fuse, short fuse, long fuse, short fuse.
Where it's going to be at, and then trying to have all these factors aligned to blow up at the exact moment that it's near the plane wasn't very effective. And to put not very effective into perspective, in the early days of World War II, they said it took somewhere between 2,500 and 1,800 anti-aircraft rounds to down a single plane. So pretty much every...
What the hell? Maybe it was 16,000 a day. No, that where they went to the museum. The guy that works at the museum, I don't know if it's curator or not, but that's coming into my head. That's what it would be. But anyhow, I thought he said it was 16,000 rounds that they would, on average, send up to take down a plane. But that sounds like a lot. Maybe that was per. They were going through that amount per day. I don't know. I'm gonna shut up now, guys.
Much everybody on the planet had basically the same idea, like, man, wouldn't it be cool if the anti-aircraft round just magically knew when it...
I will say, the way that they figured out how to make this shit work is damn genius. If he doesn't go into it on this video, I'll tell you what they said in the other video that just came out.
It got near the plane and blew up at the exact perfect moment every single time. So pretty much everybody all over the planet has this like on the back burner trying to figure out this new type of weapons technology. Japan, Germany, the UK, America, everybody's been working on this in the background, but there's not a big rush because there's no war going on at the time. And then September 1939, World War II kicks off, and then almost exactly a year after that, Germany starts heavily bombing Britain in the Blitz, and now Britain has a pretty good incentive to figure out this new type of weapons technology. Now, the UK doesn't really know how they're going to pull this off, but they do know they need to figure out how to get small electronics to be able to survive inside of an artillery round after it's been fired, which, as I'm sure you can imagine, it's subjected to a lot of G-force, which is going to break small electronic devices, especially back in the 1940s when everything was run off of vacuum tubes. So the
Dude, I seen something where it showed what was it, 5 megabyte cards back, like way back when computers started. Dude, it was a stack over waist height of these things that they had to put into the machine. It was insane how much it was.
So the British figure out right out of the gate, like, hey, this thing's spinning at 50,000 rotations per minute once it's fired. We need to make these electronic components as small and as light as possible so they don't rip themselves apart just under the G-force of their own weight. Which makes perfect sense. I mean, when Dad's had one too many chiladas on a Sunday afternoon and decides he's going to get the kids going on the Ferris wheel as fast as he can, the fat kid flies off first, okay? That's just science. Was I the fat kid? Don't fucking worry about it. I had a great childhood, okay? Now, at this point in time, Britain's in full-on war production. All of their industrial capacity is being used to build new warplanes to defend themselves, and they don't have the capacity to start investing in all this like new microcircuitry and tiny little itty-bitty vacuum tubes. So they decide, hey, we're just going to order 20,000 miniature electron tubes from this hearing aid company over in America. And then the American War Department hears about this, and they're like, you guys working on fucking hearing aids right now while the Germans are bombing you every night?
Yeah, they want to make sure they can hear the planes and the bombs. You know how that is.
No, you're not. What the fuck are you up to? So the British comes clean and they tell America, like, hey, we're allies, whatever. Here's what we're doing. We're trying to develop this anti-aircraft round that can...
It's funny how a country that can fit inside of just our New England alone is like, yeah, well, I guess we can tell you since we're allies. Dude, if we wasn't, you need to be, because we're so much bigger than you are. You might need our help. And looky there, you did. Twice.
Sense when it gets near a plane and then blow up.
And neither time did it affect our trading routes, us, any of that. Because our west coast can hit China, our east coast can hit Europe. We don't need any of that. None of it to this day. But yet here we are over there fighting or bombing the Houthis. We're not fighting them. They attempt to, I don't know, throw paper planes or something. They ain't doing much, put it that way.
Up in midair and fuck up all these planes, so we quit getting bombed every night. At which point America's like, cool, great, dope, whatever, we'll give you whatever you need, but you have to give us all of the information that you get from your testing, so we...
Hey, at least they got something. Look at what they've been doing. America's been going and helping them out, just like Ukraine, and well, we wasn't getting paid back at all. It wasn't even a loan. It was just, take all our population's money. Just take it all. Yeah, they don't mind, being broke, barely getting by, they have no care in the world. Thank God Trump is fixing that. The bull crap that our government and predicaments they've put us in, dude, it is insane, the stuff that's coming out.
So we have it also. So the British go, they do their testing, they do figure out how to get the electrical components to survive being shot out of an artillery shell, but they don't really figure out anything else after that. They don't figure out how to actually make it sense the plane, and they don't figure out the biggest problem of how in the fuck do you get a power source to all these electrical components, because it's 1940 and batteries aren't really that great at this point in time. So the entire project just kind of gets shelved, regarded as impossible. Nobody can figure out how to do it. Everybody just kind of moves on, and then fast forward.
And see, that's the difference. That's one of the differences right there. America, we don't say it's impossible. And someone, I don't know if it was Fat Electrician, it was somebody that said that's one of the things different between us, because some people are like, why do that? In America, we're like, why not? Do it because we can, do it because we want to. Who cares? Let's just do it. And that's just the way we are.
Forward to 1941, Japan commits the ultimate cardinal sin of touching America's boats.
It was habitual line crosser on one of his things, because our military is doing something like putting some crazy thing on a plane, and they're like, why do that? It's like, why not? Like putting a laser on a ship.
Oh, now you fucked up. You have fucked up now.
At which point Uncle Sam is like, here, hold my beer. You, go get a bunch of science nerds, tell them I want to put a sun inside of a bomb so I can drop it on my enemies. Hand me my lab coat. I'm going to go figure out this magic bullet that knows when to blow up thing. Okay, I've said this once and I'll say it again. Nothing stokes human creativity like the desire to kill a motherfucker that you don't like, because America figures out how to make a proximity fuse in like a couple of months. So more or less...
Wow, a couple of months. Granted, we didn't have the war to deal with at that particular time here on our doorstep. But doesn't matter. We figured out in a couple of months, which they had been trying to do that before the war even kicked off.
less oversimplified version of what they did. They took a Doppler radar, stuck it inside of this artillery round. That way, when the round is flying through the air, it's constantly emitting pulse signals. And then if there's open air, the pulse signals aren't hitting anything, so they're not coming back to the round. But when the round gets close to something solid in the sky, like an enemy plane, the signals hit the plane, bounce back, and the round can sense that. And then when the round senses that it's close enough to the plane, it blows up and there's fucking death confetti everywhere at the exact perfect moment. And that's not even the crazy part. The crazy part is the battery, right? Because we can't just put it.
Okay, so he's about to get into it because that was the part that I was like shocked on. I didn't like. Granted, I'm no genius by any means. I am an electrician, but I don't. It might have taken a minute for me to be able to come up with the way they did it. I just, but I'm not in that field. I would never even tried to think of it.
Put a normal battery inside of this artillery round because by the time that we build it in America, ship it across the ocean, the shitty batteries in the 1940 would have lost the charge, and then the
hell, even half the batteries nowadays could die. The cheap ones, anyway.
Round's just going to be a dud right out of the gate. So what they did is they took a small vial of acid, put it in the middle of the artillery round, and then surrounded it with lead and then hooked it up to electrodes so that when the artillery round was fired, the glass would break, the acid would get all over the lead and create an electrical current to power the Doppler radar while it was in flight. Okay, do you understand what I just said? America.
Now see, that drawing doesn't look as good as seeing the bullet that is cut in half in the museum, and you can see the way the glass is and everything. It looks so cool in the museum.
America created an artillery round that after it was shot out of a howitzer would manufacture its own battery mid-flight to know when to fuck up the enemy. But how long does the battery last? For the enemies in the plane?
Doesn't fucking matter. As long as it makes it from out of the barrel, there's no way that battery is going to go dead before it reaches its target. There's no possible way. As fast as the bullets fly, no way. Couple of seconds is all it needs to last.
Plane, it's a lifetime supply, homie. It's the
there
last battery they're ever going to need. Now, to be fair, there is some obvious problems, like having a small vial of glass being the only thing that's standing between.
I was just thinking that. I was thinking about how they ship them. Say if it hits a bump or just even a rogue wave, anything to make it rock and somehow roll, tap another one, how easy those vials break. But then again, I've seen small glasses like that. I don't know if those are made like Christmas lights or like a reverse light bulb. Those things are pretty thick. You can drop them and they don't break.
Between you and an artillery round blowing up the second it gets near anything solid is kind of terrifying. As I'm sure you can imagine, transporting that would be a nightmare because if one of those things breaks, you're going to blow.
Oh, it's automatically going off because it's going to detect something right there.
Blow up the entire truck. So as a safety mechanism, they actually ended up cutting little tiny wafers of lead and stacking them all along the vial. And then if the vial broke, it would just kind of like leak out and it wouldn't do anything. But when it was shot out of a gun, the 50,000 rotations a minute would have enough centrifugal force to make the lead fly out and in between all the lead wafers, and that's how it would power. So the shell's only going to go off when.
Now that part I didn't hear in the other thing. Now that's cool as shit.
It's spinning after it's been fired out of a gun. So America's done it. We've essentially made magic bullets, and now America.
You put a radar inside of a bullet, and it has its own power supply once it's fired. Before then, no power. Once you shoot it, the generator kicks on, basically, and then the damn radar starts spinning, which is the bullet rotating. That is insane to think you go from just a bullet that has to hit something to put a hole in it to now it's a ticking time bomb. When something gets a certain distance away, it explodes. That is just crazy, amazing engineering.
America is going to do what America does best. We're going to tie up this solution and bureaucratic nonsense so that nobody can use it.
Son of a bitch. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they got plenty of rolls of red tape in this country. I will say that. Thank God Donald Trump's taking the chainsaw to most of it, or as much as they can. Politicians don't ever seem to get in trouble, I'll tell you that. Guys, I just did a video about the Unsubscribed podcast. where they're talking about the Buffalo school system. And this ain't the one from a month ago. This just come out today, and it's about an hour and a half. The original videos are at an hour and a half long. It's about an hour and 45 minutes for the whole thing, but y'all definitely need to go watch it and email the FBI to get them to the limit they need, because they need 100,000 people to send the message that they got in there about the schools, and then the federal government has to, therefore, basically you're going to watch the government eat itself, is what the fat electrician said, because the FBI will have to investigate the school system, so they get to go at each other. And it's, dude, if I would have known all this shit was going on, now I don't know if it's going on anywhere around me. I know when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, we didn't have these issues in school, not at my school anyway, but these bigger places, and I almost guarantee you every single school system in America is corrupt, just like the government basically. But anyhow, the things that's been going on, especially in the Buffalo school system, is terrifying. It's fucked up. Kids are almost kidnapped and walked out of the school. Like, the dude had one in his arms, going to take him. They're going to charge him with a misdemeanor until the Unsubscribed podcast brought it out, and then it ended up on the news. It ends up being worldwide news. So, and now they fafoed. They fucked around, and they're about to find out. I'm telling you, it's going to be a fun watching this unfold between the Unsubscribed podcast taking on the national media, and just watching the way the school system and all that. It's about to get fucked. Y'all have to go watch that.
Just trying to help you, Michael.
Bitch.
Yeah, the man in charge of this project, Commander William S. Parsons, decides he's not going to let this project move forward until he's 100% convinced that this product is perfect. So the proximity fuse is a set.
Well, that's the first, because when I was watching, oh god, it was a fat electrician. It was one of them where they were doing the anti-aircraft guns tank, and they picked, because there was one that shot down 19 and there was one that shot down 9. The government decided to pick the one that shot down the 9 because it was 40 millimeter, when the other company said it could be anywhere between 30 and 40 millimeters. So what it was is they picked their buddy, their friend, their pal, anyway that they're going to get income out of it. That's who they went with, and the whole thing sucked.
Essentially been shelved yet again. Cue my favorite naval commander of all time, Willis Augustus Lee, aka
Ching
Lee.
Yeah.
On your left. Okay, I did a whole video on this guy a while back.
Yep.
If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you go watch it because he's absolutely incredible. But the real quick and dirty,
that dude right there he's badass. Now, I don't think I've done a reaction to that video. This, like, when I watched it, I wanted my own channel, but did I do it? No, I kept putting it off, kept telling myself nobody will watch. But here I am. So I've already watched that one, but I can watch it again.
and dirty of it is this guy has these super thick glasses because when he was in like 7th grade, he got bored and built a bomb that blew up in his own face and permanently damaged his vision. So
That's
naturally,
crazy.
he then went on to become a 5-time gold medalist sharpshooter in the Olympics. He then went on to become a
And then they turned him down, said his eyesight was not good enough to get into the military.
strategic genius in the Navy. He is the reason that every single
And y'all will find out, if you don't know already, that most, if not all, well, not all, but most, it seems, of the sharpshooters, the real good people, they all failed their eye exam.
American naval vessel in World War II is absolutely covered in anti-aircraft guns. Using his sharpshooting experience, he is the one that figured out and developed the calculations for a battleship battery to take into account the Coriolis effect, or the rotation of the Earth in targeting data. And he is also the one that pioneered being able to shoot at an enemy using nothing more than radar, even when you can't see the enemy. The man is a prodigy that changed warfare forever. And
I do remember that he had practiced and had his guys practice shooting those guns at a target so much that they could get it within a certain amount of meters every shot. Like, I mean, it was basically unheard of. He had them dead on. They were sharpshooters altogether.
And at this point in time, early 1942, essentially right after Pearl Harbor, Ching Lee was given orders to basically go around the Navy and just cut through red tape and unfuck everything to get the entire Navy as ready as possible for war. And even though he had the authority to cut through red tape, the problem is this was 1942. You couldn't send a text message, you couldn't send an email. Everything was done by either handwritten or typed letters, and then you had to stamp everything with like priority, urgent, standard, telling the mail carrier in the military, like, how quick does this letter need to get where it's going? And urgent, being the fastest option, wasn't fast enough for Ching Lee. So he went and had his own custom rubber stamp made, and he used red
That's gangster as fuck.
red ink, and in all caps, his rubber stamp said, frantic. So that way, every time Ching Lee had a project that he wanted to get pushed.
That's crazy. And it worked. It went through. There was no questions asked. That is insane. Can you imagine doing that? Like, wherever you work, if you need something, you stamp it, and somehow it goes through whatever ranks and keeps going.
Push through the Navy as fast as possible, he would stamp it with a big red frantic, and then every paper pusher in the Navy has that come across their desk, and they're like, oh shit, oh fuck, I've never seen anything labeled frantic, and they grab it, and that is now their sole mission in life, to get this to the next place. So all his shit gets done super fast. So as soon as Ching Lee hears that we've essentially made magic artillery shells tied up in bureaucratic nonsense, he gives it the old frantic stamp and pushes it right along, saying, and I quote, we're looking for a workable solution, not a perfect one. So it
Exactly.
immediately goes into testing, and its first test is to have an anti-aircraft battery on the ground firing at a bunch of radio-operated drones above, and these proximity fuses
That right there is what kills me. They had drones. They were able to fly a plane, basically, without anyone in the plane. Back almost, dude. We're like 15 years away from it being 100 years ago. 20 years from now, it'll be 100 years ago. They were flying drones. They didn't really get big around, you know, population till what, the last 15 years, if that? That is insane to know that they were able to fly drones back then in the 40s. Cars had just come out in the, what, 20 years before that?
absolutely crushed these drones. Okay, the only person disappointed was the commanding officer of the drones, because he was mad they were shooting down all of his drones.
And but you can't be mad about that. The reason your drones are there is to test if the weapon works, and if it works, America's winning, baby. Oh,
Great.
I remember
Next
that.
testing takes place in August of 1942. They take the proximity fuses out in the USS Cleveland, and they're going to try to shoot down drones over the ocean. This testing is slotted for 2 full days, and they've got 3 drones to shoot down, okay? Bear in mind, the British are reporting back that it's taking approximately 1,800 anti-aircraft artillery rounds to down a single enemy plane. So, with one ship shooting at 3 different planes, this should take a while. Testing ended up getting cut short because the USS Cleveland shot down all 3 drones with the first 4 rounds fired.
Wow.
Statistically speaking, this should have taken between 5.
Damn. I'm gonna let him finish talking. But you know damn well if the British were watching that and they're like, all right, you're gonna at least take 1, 2, 3. You're gonna be pushing right around 4,000 rounds minimum. And they do it in 4 shots. British gonna be like, y'all got magic. What wizard is doing this?
5,000 and 6,000 rounds, and it took 4. So obviously at this point, America's all in. Call up Rosie the Riveter. We've got something new to make. The whole 9 yards, right? Now the problem is, how the fuck are we going to mass produce this thing, right? Because we're using these tiny little tubes that were used from hearing aids, and hearing aid manufacturing isn't that big at the time.
It's crazy, damn, a hearing aid. He just said it wasn't that big, meaning the company like size. But the hearing aids, they were huge. Did you see the size of that?
We're not going to be able to mass produce this thing. So the government goes out to General Electric, which coincidentally is the biggest manufacturer of Christmas lights on the planet at this point in time, and is like, here's the deal. You're not making Christmas lights anymore. You're going to take those little Christmas lights, and instead of
You're making Christmas lights, but they're not for America to see and use on Christmas trees and houses. It's for, the Germans and Japanese and all them to see as, the last thing they see before their plane goes down.
Putting a little light filament in there, you're going to fill it with this acid, and then you're going to seal off the other end, and you're going to give it to us, and you're going to shut the fuck up about it, okay? At which point GE is...
Can you imagine the thoughts going through their head if they don't know what it's for? They're going to be like, they're putting acid in bullets. They're going to shoot people with acid bullets. Which, to be honest, sounds kind of cool. Not to be shot by one by no means. But I'm sure it would be a war crime unless it's been done. I haven't heard it. It might have been done. I figure he'd be one of them to tell me if it was.
He is like, cool, government contracts are awesome. Now we've got the manufacturing and we can mass produce this thing. This is why you don't touch the boats, all right? You touch the boats, one thing leads to another, and now we're weaponizing Christmas.
Yeah, looky there. Had Japan not touched the boats, touch the boats Pearl Harbor, but we wouldn't have joined the war, at least not at that time, or we wouldn't have started working on these bullets. Therefore, they might have had a better chance of winning, but thanks to them, FOing around, you got the answer. Got the whole chart.
Think you might be overdoing it, Dad?
Russ, when was the last time I overdid anything?
Okay, seriously though, this is absolutely huge. This has to be top secret. Nobody can know about this. Even the dudes in the anti-aircraft battery don't know that they're firing a proximity fused ammunition.
Oh wow, so they didn't know and it took them 4 shots. I bet you that shooter was like, man, I am the SHIT. I'm getting laid tonight. I bet you that's what he thought until it come out that, wasn't him at all.
They just know that suddenly overnight they got like 20 times better at their job. And because this technology absolutely cannot fall into enemy hands, it becomes standard practice that they're only...
Hell, 20 times? No, you're like 120 times.
Allowed to shoot proximity fused ammunition over water. So the only people that are going to have access to this are the Navy, and then we're also going to give it to the British over in England because their anti-aircraft defenders are firing out over the English Channel.
Sorry if y'all hear my dog snoring. Y'all know the deal if you've seen any of my videos. She is a daddy's girl. She's laying right beside me, and she's being quiet for 120 some pound pit bull to be snoring all day. Good Lord.
So any duds are going to land in the water and sink to the bottom of the ocean and ideally be unrecoverable. And then there's the last problem. What are we going to name this thing, right? We don't want to call it anything too obvious, right? The reason that we call tanks was because back in World War I, when the British developed the first tank, they just called it that because on the chart list, they wanted anybody that intercepted documents to think, oh, it must be like a water tank or something. So we have to have a deceptive name. So they came up with the VT Fuze. And that way, anytime somebody was like reading a chart or an inventory list and they just read...
Yes. All right. That right there, that looks like it's cut in, like, only a quarter of it's cut out. But the one in that museum is cut flush in half. And you can see the glass there, and you can see how everything, that is so cool how they did that, man. You gotta think, that was almost 100 years ago. It looks like little dynamite sticks in there that are wired together, which I don't know how it explodes. I guess that could be dynamite sticks. I don't know. I was thinking that was something to do with the radar, but that might have been up towards the tip there. There's no telling, guys. I don't know. They didn't go into that.
VT fuse, they'd go, what the fuck is a VT? Oh, variable timed fuse. Those old school ones that just, you spin the knob and it blows up in 7 seconds. Whoop-de-doo, who cares? So we've got it. Everything's perfect. America starts manufacturing 250,000 of these rounds every single week.
Now, when you see the little diagram in the other video in the museum, man, it just looked like it would have been maybe 8 inches, 7 inches long, and maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches wide. Look how tall these things are. Good
Sending
lord.
them out with the U.S. Navy, and then we ship a ton of them over to Great Britain so they can start defending themselves against all these German bombing raids that they've been dealing with for like over a year at this point. The first VT Fuze to down an enemy was on January 5th, 1943, when the USS Helena shot down a dive bomber, and from that moment on, the U.S. Navy and the British air defenders started wrecking house with this new ammunition. The British reported back that the average amount of ammunition expenditure went from 1,800 rounds to down an enemy plane to 85. They said not only were they shooting down way more enemy planes with way less ammunition, but the proximity fuse was actually so sensitive and so good at its job that when it got near a bird in flight,
I knew it. I knew it.
The bird. And at this point, common sense would tell you, like, okay, maybe we should dial.
I had a feeling it was going to say something about a bird, which, you know, you can't control when they fly by, even if you're shooting at an airplane, but a bird is closer by, it's going to blow up then and take out the bird, and then, you know, I guess just practice shooting. But yeah, poor birds, they didn't see it coming.
Dial back the sensitivity on this thing a little bit if we're blowing up something as small as a bird, but no, because that means that it's going to be perfect to actually shoot down the German V1 rocket. Germany's been shooting these V1 rockets into Britain, and there's almost nothing they could do about it. They just kind of had to grit their teeth and take the hit every single time because these rockets were moving way too fast for the anti-aircraft.
Tell me that right there. Tell me this
and
doesn't.
Take the hit every single time.
Tell me that right there doesn't look so similar to some of the drones that they're shooting off, you know, in Iran, from Iran, whatever. But yeah, that it really does. It's just a rocket, and you can't necessarily control it.
Because these rockets were moving way too fast for the anti-aircraft artillery batteries to actually do anything to them, like 99% of the time. I actually found one account from a British soldier, and I'm paraphrasing here, but more or less he says that we knew we couldn't do anything against the V1 rocket bombs, but we would still go out there and shoot at them anyways, even though we knew we weren't going to shoot them down, just because it made the citizenry feel better because they didn't feel like they were completely helpless. They went...
Yeah, I mean, it's true. You hear guns going off. You know someone's at least trying, even though the chances are slim to none, but they don't know just how slim that chance is.
From shooting down less than 10% of the V1 rockets to shooting down 85% of them with the new VT Fuze. Now, panning back over to the US Navy in the Pacific, it's basically a turkey shoot at this point, and the Japanese are finding out the hard way that traditional dive bombing tactics are way less.
I bet you they were like, what the fuck is going on? We went from, you know, say 90% of our planes coming back, you know, some of them might have been, you know, hit by a bullet or two, to like most of them not coming back at all. Not even mentioning, they don't know how many rounds have been fired anyway. I'm sure some of them said, yeah, you know, I could see the guns going off, flak everywhere. Well, then all of a sudden it's not flak everywhere and planes are dropping.
That's cool when the bullets flying past you don't fly past you and explode right next to you and shoot your plane down, right? Because that's what they've been used to the entire time. When they were getting shot at with actual variable timed fuses that had a secondary timer, the fuses were either blowing up way in front of them or they'd fly right past them and blow up behind them, and they were typically fine. But now,
yeah, you had like a 2-3 second window for that thing to go off just right, otherwise you're good. But then all of a sudden they all just start going off right beside. Yeah, that's bad.
All of a sudden, for no reason, from their perspective, all of the fuses are blowing up at the opportune moment every single time. The Americans are shooting down so many Japanese planes that they're literally running out of planes and pilots. And over the course of a little bit over a year, they've basically completely run out of experienced pilots because they don't do what the Americans do, where they're like, oh, we've got a really good, seasoned, experienced pilot. We're going to pull him out of combat.
Yes, that is one thing that the American military has always done that I know Russia and China and Japan don't do. Like, Russia has lost most of its experienced pilots due to, oh, he's so good, let's send him. And then that one day his card gets pulled and he punches out, he's gone. Now you don't have that guy no more. So who's going to teach the next guy? At least our guys are like, all right, yes, he's great. He's got through a lot of shit. Let's pull him out while he's still alive. Have him teach the next guy to become what he was and or better. And that's how, man, I'm telling you, America's the shit. I don't care what no one says. Why do you think all the other countries hate us?
send him back to go train all the new guys. So all
No,
of
they're
our new guys
arrogant
are up
and
to a
cocky.
higher standard. No, most
So,
other militaries
do something
don't do
about it.
that. They're just
Otherwise, shut
constantly
up.
sending in their best guys every single time. And because of that, after about a year and a half of the VT Fuse being used in combat, not only is there no good Japanese pilots left in combat, there's no good pilots left on the back end to train all the new guys. So now their entire Air Force is just completely crippled. And this is why by October of 1944, the Japanese resorted to kamikaze attacks, literally just bolting young men into the cockpit of a plane.
Yeah, they said, screw it, we're going down either way, so just head straight towards them. Thing is, I mean, y'all started the war to, I guess, take over the world, or think you are, knowing good and well, eventually, had Germany won and Japan won, they're going to get greedy and they're going to go at it with each other. But, yeah, throwing your life on the line, for what? I mean, why are you doing this? I mean, it would be one thing if they were defending their homeland. The only reason their homeland is having to be defended is due to what they did and started, you know, help with the World War. I'm gonna shut up.
And sending them on a one-way mission to their death. And while that is unfortunate for them, luckily for the Americans, the VT Fuse does not discriminate. It can't tell the difference between a dive bomber and a kamikaze, so it just blows them up.
No, come on now, fat electrician, you know better. If the eyes look like they were in the middle of blinking or squinting because the sun's in their eyes, it automatically went off. If their eyes were all the way open, then it wouldn't go off. No, I'm kidding, guys. I was just making up some bullshit. Mainly because Ching Li. Every time I hear Ching Li, I think chink, and I'm not being racist. Whatever these snowflakes, you know, want to go out and cancel people. That ain't what I'm doing. I'm just saying the name Ching Li. That's the first thing I think, and then find out he was Asian.
Now, there's a bunch of different stories where a bunch of different ships have shot down a ton of kamikazes using the VT Fuse, but the shining example is the USS Laffey. The Laffey is a Fletcher-class destroyer, and the Fletcher-class destroyers was America's mass production ship during World War II. These things are so lightly armored that they are nicknamed tin cans.
Man, I'm telling you what, in the video game I play, World War, God, my brain just went... Modern warships. Jesus, I got two games mixed up in my head, and then I'm getting mad at myself for taking so long to answer. But no, the Fletcher. I've been wanting that ship. You have to win it in an event, like, you know, it's like gambling. You got to just let it spin and see if you get it. I can't seem to win it, and it's not available right now, but still, I want it.
Using the VT Fuse in a single battle
Sorry
over the
about
course
that.
of an hour, the Laffey went toe-to-toe with 22 Japanese kamikazes, shot down 9 of them, and heavily damaged the rest. Do you understand how demoralizing that has to be to the enemy? Like, there's
Almost
entire
half.
countries on Earth right now that don't have 22 aircraft in their entire military.
Wow,
I
true.
think the average for a first world country is somewhere between 100 and 150 total aircraft.
We got... Shit, I want to say we got like 3,000 F-16s. I want to say. I'm not 100% sure. But if we don't have that many F-16s, then altogether our aircrafts, all of them is 3,000. Damn it, I'm going to have to look it up now.
Across all branches of their military. And that's fighters, bombers, recon, absolutely everything. Could you imagine throwing all of the fighter planes your country has at a singular ship that's referred to as a tin can, and it fucks up all of them? By this point in time, the VT Fuse has officially changed naval and aerial warfare forever. And it's about to change warfare as a whole, because by late 1940s...
And honestly, to a degree, it kind of saved part of that war. And now, you got the Normandy and all the other land battles. But if it wasn't for these bullets, it would have been a different outcome, or it would have been a lot harder. We wouldn't have given up,
Eisenhower
period.
sees how effective the VT Fuse is for the Navy in Great Britain, and he ends up demanding that they give it to his ground troops in Europe. After seeing how overwhelmingly effective they are, he doesn't give a shit about it being top secret and only firing it over the ocean anymore, because by the time they're able to capture a dud and reverse engineer it, the war's going to be over, and he knows that. So they take the VT Fuse and they start sticking it in normal artillery. Now, normal artillery up until now was usually direct impact, right? The shell hits the ground, it explodes, launches shrapnel everywhere. That's still pretty effective, but if a dude is like dug into a hole, all the shrapnel is going to fly right over the top of him, right? And half the shrapnel, once it hits the ground...
I don't know what I seen it on, but I know what he's about to say.
Goes into the fucking
cool
ground
as fuck.
immediately. So now with the proximity fuse, it's gonna sense the ground 40, 50, 60 feet above, and it's gonna blow up and blow all that shit straight down on top of people, whether they're in a foxhole or not. This new airburst artillery is so devastating that the first time it's ever...
So I take that back. I mean, that single artillery right there is now affecting on the ground too, not just airplanes. It's now destroying people hiding in trench warfare, all of that.
ever used in combat. It basically puts the...
I haven't heard anything about Ukraine using anything like that now. I'm assuming they are, but I know they got trench warfare going on over there where people are, you know, dug down in the trenches, you know, running back and forth. But they got, you know, drones. They can fly them, but they cost a lot more than a bullet. But just figured I'd
linchpin
say
of
it.
European theater and ends the war. Because the first time the VT fuse was used in combat was at the Battle of the Bulge. Okay, if you don't know what the Battle of the Bulge is, essentially Germany was on their heels and they decided, fuck it, we're going to throw one big last Hail Mary. We're going to take everything we've got in one big offensive and attack the American line, try to punch...
Just imagine if they would have punched through the line. What are you doing next, though? Do you think we don't have more people to send there, that there's nothing we can do? Like, so you punch through the line. That doesn't mean shit.
punch through with our blitzkrieg tactic.
I just don't see why they didn't go ahead
and it was working out for them right up
hang
until
it
it
up.
started raining metal. The new airburst artillery absolutely shredded German infantry units. There was nowhere they could hide. Foxholes weren't really that effective against airburst, and even if they wanted to dig one, the ground was half frozen. And when they tried to hide in the wood line, the airburst literally cut the forest down around them.
I was sitting here thinking, well, basically that right there's what I was thinking, how the branches are chopped off because the leaves are now gone, so it's basically nothing but toothpicks standing up and you're stuck in the middle, not include all the shit falling on top of you.
Find pictures of the Ardennes forest after the Battle of the Bulge, and the tops of the trees are just cut off with complete carnage underneath them.
That's crazy.
Chubby Electron guy's exaggerating. The VT fuse wasn't that big of a deal, and it didn't make a huge impact at the Battle of the Bulge.
You want to bet?
You know what? Fine. Don't take my word for it. I wasn't there. Let's see what General Patton had to say about it. And I quote, "The funny fuse won the Battle of the Bulge for us. I think when all the armies get this shell, we will have to devise some new method of warfare."
Yeah, drone, or you better be in a tunnel.
So yeah, while nuclear bombs ended World War II in the Pacific theater in particular, they are not the weapon that got the war to its end. That credit belongs to the VT fuse in both the European and the Pacific theater, and for that reason, it is the most important weapon of World War II. Real quick.
And you know, making that one particular round, you know what that led them to making other stuff that they wouldn't have come up with had this particular thing not been invented back then. It's unlimited on what it could have been. I mean, I don't know.
Real quick, I do have to give a special thank you because this video would have never happened if it wasn't for Fort Sill, the home of the artillery down in Oklahoma. In particular, Corey, the curator.
Yeah, okay. That's the video I'm talking about. I seen part of it, but it was just like a 10 or 12 minute clip that was originally, I guess, posted to Pepperbox, but then they broke it up and put it out on YouTube. And I caught it on YouTube. I didn't do a reaction to it. Wish I would have, but I didn't. Anyhow, one thing I do want to say, subscriber that asked me to react to this, thank you. You're one of the only that have given me ideas on things to watch. So please, guys, don't forget, if you got something you want me to watch, let me know, and I'll hop right on it.
Over at the Air Defense Artillery Training and Support Facility, which is basically a museum for the history of American air defense weapons platforms, and the proximity fuse was one of probably 200 exhibits there. Me and my friend Ethan, also known as Habitual Line Crosser on YouTube, got together and we're making a new Pepperbox exclusive show where we get to go around the country and tour military museums and learn from the curators at those museums. And here's the teaser for that.
Training
Curator, I was right.
Are not open to the public, and they are basically facilities that we can bring in soldiers to instill a little bit of a esprit de corps to them. And Congress finds themselves looking down the barrels of two hot 40 millimeters. When you hurt Congress, that's going to be the end of your program.
It worked perfect.
That's the one that sucked.
It hates piles of shit. It's awesome.
That right there is the one I was talking about earlier where they shot down 19, one company did, and I want to say Ford or something was the other company, and they got it and they only shot down 9. But spoiler alert, yeah, they almost shot their Congress people because the bleachers, the aluminum bleachers they were sitting on, the radar that they took out of an F-16, they decided to use that as a radar for these things, and it went off a heat signature and it picked up the bleachers, not the helicopter that was flying in one spot, staying still, not moving.
It's awesome. This is my new...
It worked perfect. Why are they mad?
It hates piles of shit. It's awesome. This is my new favorite tank. There's nothing funnier than just America being like, this is cool. We're going to take it and put it in a museum.
And that's a large blow up of the day that Japan fucked around. We get to the find out
section.
Yeah, find out section just past us.
Suck that, Germany.
Right.
No, I didn't see that
Can't
part.
win a world war. Fucking sucks to suck.
No, you can get these on eBay too. I mean, about what, 42,000?
Oh, you shouldn't have told him that.
I know, right?
Are you getting an M45 now?
I mean, I'll put all the money we make from this for the next 10 years towards it. Telling me size doesn't matter. It's how you use it.
Exactly. That's exactly it. It's all about how you use it.
Paper cuts hurt too, baby.
So that's also what someone with small rockets would say.
Don't lick it.
We
See that?
Yeah. Please don't lick the artifacts. Unfortunately, yeah, the motors need the brushes replaced.
My military helmet that I have, no, I wasn't in the military. My stepdad, he was in it for like 40 years. I have one of his Army helmets, and they look similar to that. One day I had to hang it up in the background or something.
Which that's a major overhaul on that one.
No, it's not. I'm an electrician. I know how to replace brushes.
You know what? You are more than welcome to come here, and this is one that
Oh, my camera froze. Damn it.
I'd let you work on.
I think that first episode is almost 2 hours long, and it is available right now over at pepperbox.tv if you want to go check it out. Other than that, thank you for watching. I gotta go.
All right, guys. Sorry my camera froze, but it is the end of the video anyway, and I'm looking dumb there, sitting there with my vape. Anyhow, I hope you're all having a wonderful day, a blessed night, whatever it may be. Please like, comment, subscribe, tell me what to react to, and I'll hop on it. Y'all all take it easy. I'll catch you on the next one.